I've walked from the museum to the Boston Common in the past, so I know it can be done. I've done it before. Hey everyone, today I want to talk about my experience going out more in the last week than I had in the last 3 months. See, I went out for the first time since my birthday in January, so before I get into it, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe for daily videos. Usually I react to articles and such, but today I just thought I'd do an old-fashioned, off-the-cuff discussion about something. So, yeah, since my birthday, January 3rd, I haven't gone out and done anything beyond just work, doctor, dentist, therapy appointments. Um, I'm freezing up here. Yeah, I think that was. Oh, groceries. So, other than going to shifts at the instant gratification job, buying groceries, and medical appointments, doctor, dentist, and therapy, I haven't gone out and done anything even remotely resembling going out to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my birthday with my friends, which happened to be they were organizing it, and they date just so happens to fall on my birthday, not a Henry's birthday thing. And given the fact that the organizer's dad had a drink of alcohol, I am very glad they did not count it as a Henry's birthday thing. And I personally am not going to consider it a Henry's birthday thing. It's a thing I did that happened to fall on my birthday. Because if you've watched my content, you know I hate alcohol and I refuse to have anyone drinking alcohol at events that are held in my name. So, I quite simply did some mental gymnastics. It's not an event that was held in my name. I had the choice to not go. They were going to do this no matter what. Like, this is why you can't throw surprise parties for me, because I have very strict rules about what something associated with my name has. But that's beside the point. So, since then, I mostly just stayed at home and played video games, worked on YouTube videos, went to therapy once a week, went to the dentist at one point, and I went to the doctor's both for a pre-scheduled appointment that I happened to have made before my little hiatus from going out, and then had to make a couple of other visits, like for ringing in my ears or my back. And of course, groceries, which I typically try to make something I did after my shift at the instant gratification job so I could consolidate the number of days I had to actually go out and leave the house so that I could, again, work on this YouTube stuff and then go and play video games. Because as I've said before, video games as a leisure activity has a very great ROI when you look at the amount of time you get out of them. Now, the quality of the experience, that can depend on you, but for the most part, if you really enjoy video games and you go to 100% of them, you can get more hours than dollars spent, which is why I'm not completely against video games going up in price. Yes, it sucks that the new Mario Kart game is going to cost $80 on its own. Oh well, it is what it is. I'm getting the Mario Kart World bundle anyway, so not a problem for me. And even then, I know I'm going to get way more than 80 hours out of it, so there's that. Anyway, let's get to last week. So, I actually went out twice in 2 days. Yeah, I know, that's way more than the last 3.5 months up to that point. Little prelude was people coming over for Easter, but I didn't have to leave the house for that, so we're not going to count that. Let's fast forward to the day after Easter. It was my friend's birthday. He invited me to his birthday dinner at restaurant that shall not be named because, as I said in my live stream that night, I experienced enshittification in real time, seeing the dish I had usually ordered in 2022, 2023, the last time having been on my birthday in 2024, decline in quality. It wasn't just the lack of the fried onions on top of it, it was the quality of the meat, the difference, the different type of cheese. For context, this was a cheesesteak sub. So I think I'll try throwing in a picture of it from late 2022 or some point in 2023 in frame so you can see what it looked like before, and then after you're just going to have to visualize it with a lower quality meat, not as good sauce, difference in cheese. Even the hoagie roll was different from what I remembered. Not to mention, they didn't have to provide this special knife that you needed just to cut the cheesesteak sub. Yeah, that's what I noticed. That's what really tipped me off when our food arrived and they didn't have the specialized knife for it. Maybe too many people were complaining about needing that, but I digress. Ultimately, I enjoyed the time with my friends, who I had not seen in person since my birthday. Now that I think about it, I still feel really bad that I wasn't feeling well on the day that one of the other friends' birthdays who was there that day. He invited me out to Cheesecake Factory. I did not feel well that day, so I had to decline. This time I got more advance notice, so I was able to stay in good shape and all that. But I digress. It is what it is, and I enjoyed the time with my friends, though let's just say it reminded me that I typically avoid restaurants for good reason. As I said earlier, I have officially experienced enshittification, and I will not be going out of my way to go there anytime soon. At most, I am looking at seeing the new Mission Impossible movie in the theater, but that's about as far as I'm thinking at the moment. It's the only movie that's coming out that I would even consider on the big screen because while the visuals, the spectacle, and the whole thing are actually big screen worthy compared to everything else that would be perfectly fine on my 43-inch 4K TV in Henry's Mojo Dojo Dormitorio bedroom. But getting back to the present, we have the next day. I told you about my plans to see The Martian at the Museum of Science in Boston for the Mugar Omni Theater. It's part of their Space Week Film Festival. Well, Space Week Film Festival for the entire area, not just that and Treasure Planet were the only two that were going to be playing at the Mugar Omni Theater. They had other movies showing in other parts of the Boston, Cambridge area. But I really wanted to see my favorite movie at my favorite museum on the biggest Omnimax screen. I think the only Omnimax screen in New England. So my original plan was the birthday man from the previous day and I were going to go to that, as well as this planetarium show. Well, it was originally going to be just that, but then I found out about this planetarium show. They had a special guest speaker, and then Birthday Man had to cancel because an important assignment for his college came up, and he had to, quote, focus on that. I guess also, if you could only have one day off, it would have, may as well be his actual birthday, which I can respect. It is what it is. I would make the same decision too if I were in a similar situation. Though, quite frankly, me personally, I would have managed my time a little differently, but maybe Birthday Man, even if he didn't have enough time to manage so that he could have made both happen, I do not hold it against him. I am more than happy to. Well, I'm not happy that he canceled, but I'm more than happy to work around it. The problem was I'd already reserved 2 free tickets, and well, I didn't have to worry about a refund. There was the matter that I couldn't return a ticket and free it up like I can at the movie theater. The thing is, the Museum of Science doesn't do refunds for good reason. They have more serious overhead to think about. They have live animals that they care for as well. They've got all kinds of fixed costs that only so many grants and big private donors can cover. So the problem wasn't necessarily getting the money back, it was more that I'd feel like a jerk for having taken away a potential ticket opportunity from someone who might have wanted to go. So I decided to get my mom to go to both that and the planetarium show with the special guest. So yeah, I spent the day getting my Donkey Kong Country Returns HD fix in, and then after my mom was done working for the day, we packed some food to eat before we went into the museum and then for the ride home because no eating or drinking within the Mugar Omni Theater or the planetarium for good reason. So yeah, she drove us there. I managed to snap a picture of the bridge where Okoye fought the Atlanteans in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. No, really, I did. It was. I'll throw it up with a image from the movie so you can see how you can tell. For those of you who don't know, it's the Harvard Bridge at the Boston Cambridge border. Anyway, we went to the museum. We hung out at the Red Wing because we were about 40 minutes early. We explored what the Red Wing has to offer, because for those of you who haven't been to the Museum of Science in Boston, the Red Wing is the only free area of the museum, so anyone can just walk in and walk around the Red Wing. Of course, you have to actually pay for a ticket into the Mugar Omni Theater or the planetarium show. But other than that, it's free to walk around and explore, whereas you have to pay the $31 to get into the exhibit halls for the Green Wing and the Blue Wing. But we were only there for the planetarium show, and the Martian at the museum is what I refer to it. So yeah, we sat through the shows, and it was cool to see my favorite movie on the at my favorite museum on the Omnimax screen. My only real complaint was the bottom left and right corners were cut off by the projector for some reason, and then I had to turn my head left and right constantly to see the entire picture. So yeah, that's. And then I reviewed it on the way home. You know, after 3.5 months of basically just going to the instant gratification job, therapy, and then the doctor and dentist as needed, and the grocery store, assuming I, even with online pickups and such. It was a nice change of pace on both days. Doing something with friends, then doing something with family, doing something more than just sitting at home, venturing outside my comfort zone, if you will. Okay, the restaurant that shall not be named wasn't really far outside my comfort zone, but. And the Museum of Science is somewhere I really enjoy going. Yeah, doing more than just staying at home and playing video games was nice. The only reason I really went out on both those nights was because, one, it was my friend's birthday, and two, I had a chance to have something I wouldn't be able to make at home as easily that I now feel the need to make at home because, well, I experienced the enshittification, so I feel like I need to make my own version now just to prove how much better it is to make things at home and do it your way. Now, if you want to go out with friends, that's perfectly fine. Like, I would rather go out somewhere with friends than do something at either of our homes. Then the Martian at the museum, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity because who knows if they'll ever show that specific movie again. Or who knows how much more often they'll be able to do this, do something like that. As I said in the survey I took later this week, I'd love to see more sci fi films on the Mugar Omni Theater screen, though I should have elaborated that they would have had to make sure there was some kind of educational relevance, because I left this out earlier. They had a 45-minute panel of actual NASA experts discussing the science of the movie and getting us to Mars. So yeah, the overall experience of the restaurant that shall not be named. I gave my friend $38 in cash that my mom had given me because she insisted I paid with cash, and I said the only way I would do that would be if she gave me more than what I had budgeted for paying with my card, because I only budgeted for the entree and soda, which then became entree, soda, and dessert because I am not spending more than I budgeted for now. I'm really glad that she gave me that $38. I didn't want to have to leave the cash at the table because I prefer to have it go through the system because they have tablets at the tables where you can just pay your bill and move on with your day. What else? Oh yeah, the Tuesday. That whole experience only cost my mom $25 out of pocket because parking. I offered to pay for parking. She declined, I guess because I'd gone through the effort of reserving us the tickets and finding out these things were a thing, and because I was nice enough to invite her when Birthday Man had to cancel. My original plan for that was to either go alone, get on the T, and then walk from Back Bay Station to the museum, because it's not too far of a walk from the Boston Common. I've walked from the museum to the Boston Common in the past, so I know it can be done. I've done it before. I was also going to stop at the Goodwill hunting bench. My hope was that I'd have one friend who could come with me to take a picture of me sitting there like Robin Williams and Matt Damon did. Unfortunately, those plans fell through, but seeing the bridge where Okoye fought the Atlanteans in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and then seeing the, what was it? Oh yeah, on the way home we passed by the bowling alley, Boston Bowl, which is relevant because in the next Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi went bowling there. I've been there in the past, so that's how I recognized it. I was like, hey, I know that place. Yeah, it looked a little different because it came out 3 years before I was born, and 6 to 7 years before I would have been old enough to form memories of going there. No, a solid decade before I could have remembered, but that's beside the point. What matters is I got my movie site consolation prizes in the Boston area before and after heading into the museum for the planetarium show, and my favorite movie at my favorite museum. Going out was a nice change of pace. It was great to see more than just my video game screens, this, the movies and TV, and other things, though. Now I'm ready to just hang out around a little more. Look for lower cost options to get outside because apparently social life costs money. The way I see it, if you just bring your own food, like my mom and I did for Project Martian at the museum, that'll definitely save you some money right there. So if I were to go on a little excursion with a friend to the Boston Common, well, the Boston Public Garden, to go to the Goodwill hunting bench, I would definitely bring my cheese cracker sandwiches and protein bars with me so that I don't have to spend any money at anywhere along Tremont Street or whatever else surrounds the Boston Common. I can just get my picture at the Goodwill hunting bench, and then walk around the park. So on that note, I'm going to leave it here for the video. Comment down below the longest you've gone without going out places beyond just work/school, medical appointments, or anything other than the bare necessities, the essentials. Give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos. I'll see you soon.